in
today.
public
Yeah.
events. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a Mario Nofal X Live broadcast, where we go over crypto, AI, gaming. And today, we're actually going to talk about music and on-chain IP with Suede Labs. It's a great conversation, but a panel of guests built to bring it to you. And we're starting with no other than Druth Crypto to kick off the conversation. Druth, my guy, how are you today?
I mean, I think I found myself in the right spot. I spent 15 years as a semi-pro musician, played arenas, heavy metal for a long time. That's what I did all the way up until crypto, kind of a match of both worlds. This is going to be an exciting conversation. I'm excited to hear what Johnny's building out at Suede. And thank you for partnering up and sponsoring us on the Mario Nofal show here. The charts across the board in crypto are on fire. I've been sweating bullets, looking at the charts all day today, having that FOMO on projects I literally already hold. And that's how you know we're starting to head into alt season here. So I'm feeling fantastic. And excited to have this great panel. We got some great speakers up on the show today, so let's get into it.
I can appreciate your bullishness. You strike me as a creative type. The musical thing doesn't surprise me at all, man. You find a lot of that in the people that do streaming. So happy to have you here to go through it with Suede. Asan has made it here from Function Land. Tell everybody how you're doing today.
Yeah, I'm doing perfect. Yeah, again, myself too, seeing the charts is making me happy that the altcoin is finally here.
Geez, finally, right? Feels like a breath of fresh air. We appreciate you taking the time. Adam, I appreciate you sliding in too. What's up, man?
Oh, man, I love the IP music discussions. I actually tried to build a music NFT company back in 2021, failed miserably. So I appreciate anybody trying to make it in that space. I think it's a worthy effort.
Yeah, a lot of creatives out there missing out. One person that's actually trademarked himself is Matt Case. You don't copy him. Matt, how are you doing today?
I am very well. Thanks, Pulse. Thanks, Drew. It's great to be here. I'm excited to get into this conversation. This is going to be exciting. Music, AI. This is kind of where things have been going. We've been talking about a lot of this on some of our spaces as well, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, guys like me worry about deep fakes. So locking down the IP, I think, is important, especially considering what we're up against going forward. Maddie Greenspan knows about that. Maddie, thank you for taking time. How you been?
Pretty awesome. Thanks. Marcus treating me well lately. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time. I know some of the things you've talked about over the last couple of weeks I've been tracking. You haven't been wrong about these things. I appreciate you being here. Maddie, all in, sliced off some time. Looking good, bro. How are you?
I'm great. Just visiting Fort Collins, Colorado. Went to a record store earlier today, but I also saw that Elon thinks that Grok 5 can create artificial general intelligence in a year or two. So excited for this conversation.
I wasn't sure what to make of his post when he said that. So I kind of took it with a grain of salt, but it's funny that you mentioned it too. Johnny, what do you think about things today, man? We appreciate you being here from Suede. What's on your mind? How are you?
Good to be here. I appreciate the timing. Couldn't be better. And, everyone that was building in 2021, I can't imagine it's difficult now. And it was, I think the tech is advanced to where it is possible, but we'll get into all that and just, very, very glad for the day that we're having thus far and kind of what it's signaling.
Absolutely.
Not a bad day to be here. Drew, can I ask you a question right off the bat?
Yeah,
absolutely. Some communities that rely pretty heavily on AI generated music, either for like VT intro music and stuff like that. Do you feel threatened as an artist by any of that? Or do you think it's just like another tool? Because people felt the same way when synthesizers came out and mixers, like there's always like new tech FUD. Do you worry about AI, or is it something you look at as a tool in your kit?
There was a large degree of ease of production that I saw come into music. I was a former heavy metal musician for about 15 years. I'd done the circuit. I was selling t-shirts for gas money, playing arenas at the same time. Kind of lived that grimy, homeless, semi-famous musician lifestyle. And, really the thing that excites me about, AI, I think you're going to have to be very personable to overcome AI. You're not going to be able to just make sounds out of your mouth or out of your fingers, and that's going to be enough. You're going to have to bring personality. You're going to have to bring charisma, and you're going to have to be very, very original as a content creator to rise up above the AI. AI can create a lot of content very, very quickly. It can be very relevant very quickly. And as we see with kind of large events that happen in the world, the faster you can get out that content, the more likely it is to go viral. So, people that shine to me in terms of originality and punctuality are people like Tom McDonald. That can be Johnny on the spot, no pun intended, Johnny Suede downtown there. But yeah, I think that a high degree of personality and punctuality is going to be required in that. But when we talk about, the advantages that we could, find within combining AI and IP control, that is something that's near and dear to my heart, because, there was a point where I reached that crescendo. I was getting the offers, the record deal offers. And I found out that they were basically just taking advantage of us. It was a $300,000 or $400,000 loan. You made 12% of your profits, and the loan was due back within 3 to 4 years. Right. So, it's a very difficult thing to realize as someone who dedicated my life to music, and having the potential outlook to, see the next generation of musicians. I'm 37. I'm not going to be a heavy metal singer, again. But maybe the next generation might be able to leverage this technology for their benefit. Absolutely.
It's a pretty wild world to think about how things have changed since you were out there on the road.
Yeah.
Trying to do, well, I mean, fan service, if you're saying put personality on it, the first thing I think about is how important tour money has become for artists compared to what streaming has done to the revenue that used to come from those lucrative record deals. Just the meet and greets and those merch opportunities have become so much more important than they used to be. And you were right that it comes down to that type of stuff. Johnny, what do you think about the importance of that? Because streaming was a huge chunk of revenue that cut into what artists were already making. It's only made it harder. Do you think AI is going to empower them to maybe make some more of that revenue back instead of compete?
I believe so. I think it's going to kind of lower the barrier for people having access to instruments that they haven't in the past. We built everything in the cloud, so somebody can play any instrument just with a basic keyboard. So there's elements of that are a little less dystopian. But on the other end of that as well, I think it's going to be utilized as a creative tool. And I was listening to a song the other day, and it was like, had me heart-wrenching. And I'm thinking, if this was an AI, this would mean nothing to me, the song. So having that backstory and knowing that somebody's been where they're articulating, I think also is, massively valuable as an artist.
Yeah, the examples of the instruments is a good one, because some people would think other things. I think a lot of people think about synthesized voices, but just having access to compose is a great example.
Yeah, exactly.
No different than how auto-tune exploded on the scene, and suddenly everybody had the voice of an angel. It was right, and that debate continues to wage on, but I think that's now it's more accepted than ever, right?
Yeah, and the problem with that, honestly, is that it makes all voices sound alike. They're auto-tuning songs that are 20 years old, so it's kind of giving them the ability to bring lesser singers and prop them up because they sound like all the other ones, and it evens the playing field in that regard. So, the only way I think that we can mitigate these things is by using those same tools. We have to be realistic about the circumstances. And I think we utilize AI to kind of, like I said, mitigate those, the detriment that would be caused to the artist.
I agree with all of that. Adam, what do you think about the potential for the artist to actually make more revenue because of this AI?
Well, I think part of what I learned is that, look, there's always going to be superstars. There's always going to be people who make more. But I think actually Johnny touched on a big issue there, which we've seen in Web3, which is people are willing to pay to support individuals who they like and connect with. And I think that's one of the best things about Web3 and blockchain technology is it allows for a small creator or somebody just starting to actually make money right from the beginning, and not just have to do like what Drew did and sell t-shirts, but gives them other avenues for creating income generation for themselves. And I know a lot of artists, even musical artists, who sell albums, and they'll sell 100 albums at a time, but it's got an NFT attached. They can do it, do it all online, do it all on blockchain rails. And I think that's something that getting the word out to smaller creators that this technology is available, like that's super important in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Just makes go ahead.
I mean, you think about that, and it's an extreme opportunity, but also my mind goes to the control mechanisms that have that throughput right now. Spotify and YouTube, are they going to give up that real estate, that control? I mean, I've seen millions of listens come through on my profile and $12 payments before, and I don't think that's going to get any better. And the more that everyone's okay with it, the longer term of an outlook it has. I mean, and not to be a pessimist, but we're up against quite a large industry that has a stranglehold on this this pinch point right now.
And
Right.
the music industry has been toppled before several
Mhm.
times over as technology progresses, and so they don't really have a choice. They are incumbents and they're sitting on a very pretty perch at the moment. But all it takes is for somebody to put out a user interface which resonates with the masses, and it's a done deal. They can't really fight you on that. Especially, I mean, that was true when the internet was born and Napster came out. Now that we're talking about blockchain, I mean, just forget about it. They're completely powerless.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't think any of us projected the Treasury or the government, 9 months ago, being so positive and talking about increasing our credibility as a currency using Bitcoin. But eventually, the capitulation to superior technology, I believe, takes over. And I think it's going to come from the artists just being fed up. And we have the unique ability in Web3 to monetize very easily. So I think it's going to be the artists that really lead that movement.
So let me ask a weird question since I've got a musically inclined
Awesome.
group here. What did Iggy Azalea pull off? Because she's like the only artist that she launched in a period of time where everybody that was a celebrity was launching, but she is a musician and she is also still one of the only ones that's around talking about her project. So I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of what she's done, but she's one artist that has kind of embraced the blockchain in some way and might be in 5 years kind of a powerhouse name, right? Am I wrong?
No, you got to give her credit. And I do think that there could have been a lot of easier ways for her that she could have played it. But I think she stood by what she said. And if she could have opted out, I think a lot of it is these artists being put in unfortunate positions by people that know a bit more about blockchain, like Sahils and whatnot. So I think she could have opted out and taken that easier route. But I have to give her credit. She stood by it and actions speak loudest. So I have to give her that.
That's good. And just for comparison purposes, I don't want everyone thinking that Iggy was blazing a trail. Avenged Sevenfold has been on the blockchain since 2021. You guys remember they had the bats, NFTs, and all that stuff. So there have been musical artists that I think recognize the possibility to connect with fans through blockchain. We've heard discussions with Ticketmaster and the idea that tickets would come on chain and stuff like that. But it's just interesting to see all these different ways because artists have got to have like 9 revenue streams these days to be able to have it all coming in like that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I saw Snoop Dogg pop his head in. I was like, this is the catalyst we need, right? I mean, Snoop Dogg. I mean,
Snoop's been paid so many times. He's one of the smart ones who takes advantage, right? Snoop's one of the smart. I think the one who did. I mean, last cycle, I'd say like Blau did a nice job of trying some different things, tokenizing some different aspects where I don't know, you owned one of his songs and the number of streams it got. In theory, some money came back to the owners of the NFT and stuff. But all that seemed really clunky. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Johnny's could tell us more about, if he thinks the tech has gotten to the point now where, we're ready for some new trials and some new kind of experimentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything, we build on the shoulders of giants, and the people that were trying to do this in 2022 and 2023 had the same vision. That just the technology wasn't there. And anybody that's minted an NFT knows that there's no possible way we could have gone into an Ethereum contract, opened it up, adjusted royalties, added collaborations, closed it back, sealed it, anchored it off chain for the IP using Chainlink. Like all of that wasn't an option, and it is now. And so I'm not responsible for any of those advancements, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to leverage them to try and empower people to some extent. So yeah, I think it's a huge part of it is just technology advancing.
I mean, I hope so. That's like last cycle when I saw the NFT, kind of integration with music, I felt like there was so many roadblocks that the average person would have to overcome. Right. And now, after watching what Phantom was able to accomplish with Trenchers and the amount of revenue, the amount of excitement to the native token, like Solana absolutely sent, because I felt like there was nothing in the way of someone downloading a Phantom wallet. You get on there, and the user interface is as easy as Facebook to navigate. And I felt like that was a pretty big deal. And there's something to be said about mainstream, acceptance, long-term acceptance of Bitcoin. Really, you said something 9 months ago, we couldn't have seen this coming. Trump is literally in a gold statue 12 feet tall holding a Bitcoin now, and this is at the outside the US Capitol. It's given me Gaddafi vibes for sure, but I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for that kind of energy. And on top of that, now we have over 100 ETFs in application at the door of approval for not Bitcoin, but altcoins, right? And this is something I was talking to a fund manager, a whale inside source about, because I have a lot of hesitation on if there is actually going to be institutional interest in these altcoin ETFs. He laughed. He said, dude, these institutions are just as degenerate as you are. They just have more bandwidth for error, and they have much bigger bags to fight with. We're out here looking at these ETFs, and there's a lot of altcoins that are included in these ETF packages coming up that have just gotten essentially a standardized route to get that green light of approval. And I've wondered for a long time, can ETFs really move the needle? And I'm starting to actually, after talking to that fund manager and realizing that, they have that inclination. They're looking at these altcoin charts just the same as I am. They do. Fibonacci sequence is the same. They're looking at the upside. I do, I want to roll this to Matt. Matt, do you think that these ETFs for XRP, Solana are going to make a big, bang in terms of interest and price action? Or is it just going to be a product that's available, but interest is going to still remain on Bitcoin and Ethereum? What do you think about that?
Personally, I think that you're going to see some interest, especially if staking and that component is allowed with the with Solana ETFs in particular. I think we saw a little bit just in the last week. Maybe it was more of the buy the rumor, sell the news with the Fed, but we did see a pretty good pump here in Solana in the last week, getting here right around 250, a little bit of a pullback here. And I think that as these ETFs come closer to fruition here in October, we're going to probably see it again push closer to an all-time high. But I wanted to circle back to one thing on that Johnny and both you had brought up, Drew, is I feel that like with the music industry where we're at right now, it reminds me of like if there's a Venn diagram between what's happening in the music industry right now and what's happening in banking with blockchain and Bitcoin. We see that the creators are actually gaining more of a foothold, and it was those of us that got into Bitcoin early on that were able to make these moves to have an influence and kind of reshape this narrative as things go along. And now I think the musicians have an opportunity to do this as well. We've seen already, what was that Kings of Leon back in years ago? They put out an NFT, they put out lots of stuff already. So this has been going on, but I think for the creator economy, what this is doing, and I think what Johnny's project really does, is it secures that IP for artists that are out there working really hard, and guys like you, Drew, who used to have to sell merch on the side and hustle and scrap. This is really bringing the playing field even, so the creators and the artists don't have to be at the beck and call and lick the boots of the corporate industry types from the record labels. Having been in the music industry myself, I can speak to this. And let's just last moment, I'll land my plane on this, is that we're talking about NFTs. I know for a while, I think iHeart even looked at tokenizing and doing NFTs for their iHeart Radio festival. So again, this gives you access and membership, and then you've got a commemorative NFT. So I really think that we're scratching the surface of this, and what projects like Johnny's are working on are just really exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Right. And I got out of music, and now I'm in content creation and crypto. And now I'm looking at, not only the music aspect of this, but we've seen a pretty big surge of creator markets, creator coins, pump fund making a comeback. And I get that blanket response from people if they should or should not go into it and be like, no, that's way too degenerate, and we don't want to tokenize our show, right? In my view, I am already tokenized in fiat via how many views and attention points I can get on YouTube, regardless, right? So the argument that I shouldn't tokenize a show makes literally no sense to me, because I can increase my creator fees by 100-fold. And you know what? I just think that it's a very new industry that is given a chance. I don't think that YouTube is going to be taken over by Pump Fund, but if Pump Fund could find, 0.5% of the traction that YouTube has I think that there's insane upside there. And I'd make the argument I'd rather be tokenized on the blockchain than connected at the hip to YouTube, which takes 80% of all of the revenue. And they make tens of billions of dollars a year on ads that they place in between my shows. And I see very little of that money. I'm being used by the powers that be on their fiat system. And Pump Fun, the Arena on Avalanche, Zora on Base, all of these different options are different approaches to taking that power back. And I'm for it. Pulse, what is your take on the Pump Fund? Is it, am I crazy for looking at it this way? I want your take, because I know you've been seeing all the chaos happening on Pump Fund. I am on there, and our show is just a show, and I don't sit there and say, hey, go buy it. We literally tell people not to buy it, that I'm here to bring good content to you. How do you approach this Pump Fund situation, Pulse?
So I would love to think that Pump Fun was going to be a platform where people are going to sit down with an acoustic guitar and strum like they're high schoolers trying to get a prom date at a bonfire. That's not what's going to happen, because people aren't going to churn and burn the volume on that. You know what worries me even more is that legitimate artists that do try to do that are going to be competing with people that are running the same parking lot violin scam that I see at the grocery store during the summer, where those people pull up with the I'm not actually playing the violin thing. So you won't even be able to determine on the streams like Pump Fun that you're dealing with a real creator, or that you're not about to get that farm video with that damn tractor again when the violin music stops playing. I wish that I could count on the people on Pump Fun from a customer side to vote with their money, because it's essentially what we're doing on Pump Fun. I just don't think that's going to be it. I think Pump Fun's going to keep being the land of pretty girls and farming videos and stunts, the weird wacky things that people pay attention to. I don't think it's the solution for people who are legitimately interested in, like, well, if you did it, let me tell you this. I think if you did it, you would have to be finding a way to off ramp to something like a Patreon, where your audience on Pump Fun and the creator rewards are a nice side snack, but you better have a funnel to capture when it rains, because it's not going to be the thing that pays your bills as an artist. You've got to be trying to do something else with it. In my opinion, if you're a musician, Pump Fun's probably not the place to go.
Yeah. It's an interesting test I'm doing. I'm coming from a 1.5 million subscriber YouTube, and I'm like, I'm here to bring you just good content, right? I don't care what you do with the token. And what you're saying, Pulse, the stunts, the thoughts, they're definitely winning on Pump Fun, right? And
let's be clear, they're winning on YouTube too, right? I mean,
they're winning on YouTube too, right?
Like,
and
what is Mr. Beast but like torture porn? It's like, hey, put your hand on this car and hold it for 30 days and you win the car. I mean, it's like torturing people. What is that? It's the similar sort of thing. And I'm with Pulse. Like, I don't think Pump is like this long-term great solution to content creation and rewarding creators. But I will say, like, I know gamers and stuff who are over there right now, and they've made more in 3 days on Pump than they made in the previous year on YouTube. So, I mean, do I think it has legs to be long-term? To be determined, and I would say my odds are probably like 10%. Yes, but I like the effort anyway.
I think it's going to be bigger than YouTube.
What was that?
Yeah.
Again?
I think it will absolutely be bigger than YouTube. I
Okay.
think the model is phenomenal. Creator rewards is a paradigm shift. It's one of the best things that happened to the crypto industry since, I don't know, fractionalized NFTs. But my point is that basically people can now monetize their token without extracting value. And those fees, where do they come from? Is it used to go to the broker, right? In TradFi, the trading fees, like the broker gets rich. You do an IPO, the broker makes a lot of money. And even in with the sex world, Binance is sitting there getting rich when somebody launches a token off of them. And now, thanks to DeFi, and it's that way both on Clanker, on Base, and Farcaster, and Pump Fun. You now have these creator rewards where the founder doesn't have to dump on people in order to monetize. And how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
And then somebody can then. We launched on Pump Fun, actually not because we were looking to stream, but because it's just a simple way to do a fair launch token. And so I feel that this this model, and what it does is it's going to force people to think, right? Because right now, like there's an excitement, and when somebody does a new stream, like, oh, it's really him, and then they want to verify that hold up 3 fingers, say pump fun, blah blah blah, just to make sure that they're a real person, that this is a real live stream. And then the person, and then if it is, then the token's going to pump. But then, like, what happens 10 minutes later, right? Is that okay? Now now people are thinking, okay, I've made my 5x or 10x or whatever profits they're looking for sniping early by guessing that this is a correct, real famous person. But then you want to, like, I'm certain they're thinking like, hey, what are you going to do with this coin? Because we launched on there because we want to build a coin with utility, right? And so that makes sense to me. But then now you've got a coin, and now it's got price action, and you've got creator rewards, which you're able to monetize with. But what does the holder get for that? What do you get for buying and holding that? Where's the value, the creation? And what it's going to do is it's going to take all of these amazing creative people who've made their careers being creative to start thinking, how do I drive value back? How do I get people to buy my token, hold it long term? How do I get that market cap up?
Maddie, can I ask you a counter question? Because you just made me think of something. Because you're saying that these creators they should be contributing back to their token. What do I do now that I have this token? What do I do with it? When I paint a painting and I'm done with it, I don't give a shit what happens to that painting after I'm done. I don't care what happens to the secondary market value of that painting. It's not my responsibility to continue to live a life that ingratiates the painting or increases the value. I could go do terrible things and it could become worthless. I could become a great painter and it can become valuable. But the least of the things which I'll consider in my day-to-day activity is, golly, I hope this makes my painting value go up. Like, so for a creator who makes a token, can't they just morally throw it in the trash and do another one, and throw it in the trash and do another one the same way any other creator creates? Like, what's to stop that besides your own ethical and moral guidelines?
Well, first of all, you do care about what happens to your painting after you've sold it, right? You do care that well, if it gets sold for $1 million later on, I mean, that's something that's going to bring you prestige. And vice versa. If you gain some prestige after you sold it, that's going to send the price of the painting up. So the artist and their creation are inherently connected even after they've parted ways physically. But in this case, if we're talking about streamers who are going to come on and build themselves an audience on this platform, then obviously they're going to care about the token prices. It's sitting right there. That's what everybody in the chat cares about. How would they not care about? Now, yes, they could in perpetuity go over and over and create rug after rug, but I mean, who's going to buy it by the third time? Everybody's like, oh, we know this person, they're a rugger. The chat's going to immediately identify that. Nobody's going to buy the token. So what creators tend to do and what they're good at is to build an audience and build a community. And what's going to do that better than a token that's going up in value?
Yeah, I would agree with Matty Greenspan, not just because he's a brilliant economist, but also because, like, if we just look at YouTube creator rewards, yeah, they're doing the Hayden Davis playbook of like maxed extracting on creators. Just like Drew said, like 60%, 80% of my super chats is going back to YouTube. They're monetizing. Now, of course, it's really expensive to like push video to all the people that are watching. But I agree that like Pump Fund, because it has a better incentive mechanism, like they will, eventually get the best talent because they're paying the best rewards.
Mm-hmm. And there is different approaches for many of these different social-fi attempts. I will call them social-fi attempts.
Yeah.
You have mechanisms that are different. Like on Pump Fun, you have to create the token to be able to stream. On the arena, you can stream without a token, but then the chat is sending tokens back and forth to each other. The host is sending tokens to the chat, and the chat is sending tokens back to the host, right? So there's different mechanisms there, as well as the social profile itself tokenized. Zora, everything they post is tokenized. Like if they can put a period and press enter on the computer, and that's now on the blockchain, right? So these are different attempts. Zora feels like a DDoS move in an essence, almost in some
That's
ways.
a good analogy.
The amount of information making its way onto the blockchain. But I think that it's an interesting time. A lot of testing, a lot of seeing what will work. And back to kind of when I saw Snoop Dogg come into the music, the NFT realm, I was like, man, this is the big name that we need to see this make happen. Really, I think it's more closely related to the user interface needs to be smooth. It's not about the big name coming in there and everyone, all right, I follow this person, I'm going there. It's more about the system being clear, the roadway being clear for the average user to get in easily, to understand what the heck they're doing, and just enjoy the content there. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's tough to develop, not easy to develop at all. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of resources to develop even an attempt at this. But, blockchain's a disruptive technology, right? Bitcoin's very disruptive against fiat currency. And within that, the ecosystem across the board is going up against pre-existing Goliaths of what we know as content, as money, as communications. And it's got a long way to go, but it's never felt like it's had a better chance to make it happen than now.
Well, I mean, just look at Kick, right? Like, people didn't give Kick much of a chance, but it worked because they paid creators better, right? And so, they were able to kind of take down Twitch a notch just because they were paying money, funded by by a casino who had tons of money to spend. And, is 1.2 billion enough for Pump to build this out? I'm not sure, but it feels like it's got a good shot in that way.
Hassan, I'd like to ask you, Hassan, do you worry about the AI music becoming something that people are going to be dealing with? Like, I think of SoundCloud as an example of how many people I know want to make music. SoundCloud, before it came out, you didn't really know how many people are out there. Now everybody knows a SoundCloud rapper. Do you worry that AI music is going to proliferate across platforms like that, and that we're going to get inundated with this low quality AI stuff?
Before going to the AI, actually, I want to iterate something that actually was very correct, like was correctly said. So right now, the blockchain is monetizing the creations for creators. So that's a benefit for creators. But for the audience, for the community, there is still not that utility benefit. Like, a lot of community, like, they buy the token for the hope of, gains. But, still, like, as a listener, it's easier for me to go on Spotify and just open the app and listen to music. So, I think if we want to go mainstream, we need to also create that benefit for the audience on top of the creators. And with the AI that you brought up, I think the problem of AI is not really low quality creations. I think what is the problem that we need to solve with the intervention of AI is, right now, AI is blurring the line between the creator and the machine. So when I create something using an AI tool, who is the owner? Is it me? Is it the machine? Is it the data that is gathered from other creators and this AI tool is trained on? So there is a lot of things involved, and right now, like the on the legal side, it's very vague. Like, a lot of we are training a lot of these algorithms on the data, on the public data, without giving back to the data holders, to the creators, actually anything. And I think this is going to be the danger of AI. Like, how are we going to reward the original creators that we are training the AIs on?
Can I ask a question here really quick? Sean, you brought up something really good here. And I think that let's say, again, like all that data that the AI is using to put whatever it is that we're going to create together. I think the difference here, to answer your question from my side, is that the way I might prompt is going to be different than the way you're going to prompt, than the way Drew or Johnny or Maddie or Matty or anybody here in the panel would prompt, right? So I think then from that standpoint, if I'm prompting it, I think I have my fingerprints on that versus the way you would prompt it. So that's how I would address that.
I agree.
You're right. Like, you are adding your fingerprint to something that that also has thousands of other fingerprints, right? And we need to find ways to reward 1,000 people who put their fingerprints on this AI algorithm up until it reaches me, right? So I think that's still very vague in the age of AI.
Now, as
So
much as I agree with that, because what Maddie or what Matt was getting into too is if I maybe am paying a subscription to the service, maybe that's what they're getting. They're not going to get creator fees off my massive global hit song that I made. Just like if I write a really cool piece of writing a novel or something using a typewriter, I don't know the typewriter manufacturer or creator royalties. I bought the typewriter, right? So I wonder where that line blurs. I'd also be curious if you could leave a comment below and let me know if you've ever done any kind of AI music or if you've ever listened to music you know is AI. Because I actually have a couple of channels on YouTube that do this. They play AI music. There's some of like those work stress channels. I know it's AI generated. So leave a comment below if you know you've participated in AI music or if you've used it yourself to create music. I'd love to hear about it. Leave a link to where we can find your AI music below. Also, if you're a project that's out there listening and you're interested in subjects like this, maybe it's AI music, maybe you're doing DeFi, if you have an NFT project, we would love it if you sent the account that's currently live a message. If you want to do a show just like this and have a conversation with people that love your subject, send us a message right now and we will build a panel just like this. And you just let them know, I saw the Suede Labs show. I want something just like that. And Druth and I will get together with you and we'll talk about your favorite things. And you'll also get an AMA like what Suede Labs is getting right now. Suede is here today. And if you missed the beginning of the show, we kind of met Johnny and talked about what they're doing, but I want to give you a chance, Johnny, right off the bat. So if anybody's listening, the first question has got to be, can you tell me what is Suede Labs? What do you guys do?
That's a very broad question. We call ourselves a full stack creative platform. So we give artists not only the ability to secure IP, but also to monetize, because a lot of these intermediaries that record labels have kind of relied on using as a barrier, because if you didn't have these, you had no chance. These things now are just blown out of, there's no barrier to them. I can run an AI agent that analyzes a crowd that's located in some, far off geographic region and analyze my music, find what's viral in my music according to them, and put it in front of them using that AI agent as a conduit. So there's a lot of different ways that we leverage AI, but I think there were a lot of great things that were brought up, and I think, kind of answering a few of them or kind of giving my 2 cents on it might help a little bit. But I think, AI music is going to, if anything, and I'm a libertarian at heart, so I tend to think that people are kind of just going to figure these things out. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I think that, the music is going to dilute itself to the point where the only thing that's going to stand out is higher quality music. And I would also say that I don't think if this were the 90s, if this were different time periods in which people were very tied into their music, tied into their musicians, I don't think this would have as much of a chance of proliferation, because people had that closeness of, going to FYE and getting a CD. And so bringing back peer-to-peer music, I think kind of reinstalls that relationship with the artist. But I think intentions matter. And I think, a good example is Taylor Swift. When she launched an album, I think the hedge fund launched one too, and she said, don't buy that. And it sold 18 copies, not 18 million, not 18 copies. And then she launched it and it sold out. So I think if people, come to blockchain with a sincere wanting to actually learn about it, not just extract value from the people that are already there, I think there's a ton of potential, and we facilitate that in a major way, because like I said earlier, in Web3, we have a way to monetize that is unique to us. But yeah, I think more than anything, the blockchain is going to give artists the same way we talk about self-sovereignty. I think creative sovereignty is just as important, if not more. And we use blockchain to reinstall that to the artists, so they're not paying CD fees still in 2025 when a CD hasn't been made, on most albums for years. So I think it's just a better option. And I would urge everybody to go to suedeai.ai, suedeai.fun. The last thing that I'll say regarding, the pump fun topic, because I think it's interesting. I do think it serves a purpose in the regards that it sensationalizes the industry enough to bring eyes to it, and people start saying, "Well, this creator's getting wealthy." And I believe in platforms like Drew mentioned, Arena. More so, I think it's a more sustainable model. But I think that kind of the same way the circus brought attention to kind of like theatrical productions, I think Pump Fund does that well, and will get eyes on our industry. Maybe not the greatest attention up front, but that is going to be kind of, I think, facilitating a paradigm shift that helps people to want to know more. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, I love the approach. And what I noticed, I heard that you had recently had kind of like a rebranding or a revamping.
Yes.
What do you think kind of sparked this change, and what's different now compared to the way things were before with what you're building here?
So great question. So in the beginning, our main model was build every artist an AI agent of their own that has their own model that they fine-tuned, that they trained, so that if a studio wants a song, they can't, circumvent the artist. They've got to go to that artist's model, which is verified on chain. But ultimately, the goal was to empower artists. And these tools are so readily accessible, like what I was talking about earlier, that I think we have such an opportunity to, with analog musicians as well, to give them a sounding board and give them a way to have some agency over their ability to earn. Because, money is very taboo to a lot of artists. But when you're hungry and, like Drew said, and I've heard Drew's music, it's great. When you're hungry and hell yeah. No, I looked it up specifically, man. But yeah, hell yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, it chugs. But no, I think, there's definitely that interest there. And I think, eventually when you get screwed around by a record label long enough, you're going to want to look at alternatives, even if they are considered, somewhat greasy to you or something, So I think there's a ton of potential for analog musicians, and that's really what that signals, I think, more than anything.
Man, Pulse is calling me out. I'm blushing here a little bit. I've only, I mean, it's been like,
a lot of people
like
throw flowers.
Good.
I've seen a lot of people throw flowers at Drew before, but I ain't seen him light up like that. You went straight to his heart, man.
Shoot, man.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my gosh.
And I've listened a few times.
I mean, so I mean, first of all, I like this, but is there a core mission that is still remaining the same, or have you had any evolution in, kind of reflecting new opportunities or maybe challenges you ran into that have kind of changed your trajectory of where you're trying to go with this?
It's a great question. I think I came in a bit more humble than I needed to be in the sense that I didn't really know just how far we could expand and encompass kind of artists' autonomy and give them all these tools that are incredibly valuable, that are leveraged by record labels for their anointed few. Give them the ability to utilize these same tools in a more effective manner, because record labels are very archaic. I realized that we could do much more than I thought we could in the beginning, and we can offer in regards to, like you said, launching tokens in a way that doesn't require an artist to actually sell their token on their fans, which is a horrific dynamic, for peer-to-peer music. It's PvP music, and so I think I just realized that the scope was so much wider due to the technology advancing, and we had so much potential to do, really great things, and just how much easier that gets kind of week by week with the advancement with AI and, having the ability to make something into an app very quickly and have communication across the globe so easily. I think I've been in blockchain for 9 years. I've always loved it. I've always known what it's capable of, but I don't think I really understood just how much we could integrate it into really restoring sovereignty on a more like essence type level, I guess.
So it's been a minute, but I was actually thinking back across my schedule. I think I had a conversation with you quite a while back before you guys did a rebrand, and I'm actually kind of curious now. I'm drawing the lines between the two. What are some of the things that you guys have changed, or maybe capabilities that you would be excited to tell people about since you've done this?
It's a great question. So we've added so many features. So we've actually added the ability to clone voices, your own voice, and you save it in a database, you pull it up, and it's no cost, and you can make a song with your voice. And I think that's useful for artists. You know, we're overly critical of ourselves. So if you think, man, I couldn't do an R&B song, and you hear your voice in it, you might see that maybe you're inclined without that same sort of trepidation. But we've actually just, so we've bridged to bass, and we have huge synergies there. None bigger than the fact that I think we are the first AI agent that's graduated to ACP, which is Agentic Commerce Protocol, and it's with virtuals. And basically, not to get too technical, but we have an exposed backend, and it's a plugin that people can API into. And I say people, I mean agents. So they can call our agent all day. Somebody can go on and request a song from Butler, and it will connect them right to our agent. Our agent makes song. It can make the scaling is limitless. It can make thousands of songs in a couple hours, and it can make someone a song within a minute. You know, studio grade. So I think kind of that agentic sort of wraparound is incredible for revenue. And I look at it kind of like the Tesla model, where we're building expensive cars up front so that we can build like really, affordable, reasonable cars later. So it's a way to kind of fund the bigger mission, having these agents just queuing each other all day and then taking that money. We have programs like in Africa and Asia, which we go to schools and sponsor and, get instruments and, open up the technology. And we've made it in a way that everything is built in the browser. So you can run this on a Raspberry Pi. And like I said earlier, you have virtual instruments of everything that's ever existed. And if you've got just a regular keyboard, not even a MIDI keyboard, you can play all those instruments. So, I really think that the global, like I said, kind of how broad this is, really is pretty cool. And I think music is one thing that's pretty much universal to most people. And I think it can also bring us a lot of good. And that's where we're positioned for that sort of direction, if that makes sense.
I love it. And I think Matt Case, I like this question Matt Case dropped. Matt, do you want to run this question by him real quick?
Yeah,
this
man.
is a very good question. I want to run.
Yeah. What about artists that have died? Like artists like Jackson, Prince, Elvis. How are their states dealing with AI and potentially making new music, I guess?
So the
you
precedent,
have a verification tool. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So the precedent, it isn't retroactive, and this will likely change as things evolve and these go in front of judges. But at this point, one of the great elements, and we've gotten a legal opinion on this, is that artists can, and with these models that I was discussing earlier, if somebody goes to the Weeknd's model, that somebody can be their family, and they can use that in perpetuity. And if people continue to like what it's creating, they can have a direct connection to the musician because everything was fine-tuned by that musician. So those outputs were directed by them. We host the model. They have a very blank slate, and then they fine-tune it in a way that envisions what they stand for. And the way they do that is what musicians do best. They just jam with it, and it goes around in these iterative feedback loops, and it just kind of learns each time more about what the musician is inclined for. But to answer your question, the estates can earn in perpetuity, and those things will probably change. I think that'll continue to be the case, but we'll have more clarity on it as it becomes a bigger question.
So what are some of the things that maybe you've done to revamp where you guys have been positioned to stay ahead of other competitors in the space? Because like I mentioned, I've run into communities that already use AI music. What are you doing at Suede to stay one step ahead of all the rest?
So, and that's a great question. And I think what is really unique, and when I say we're the only music agent in ACP, there's a million trading bots, agents. There's a million DeFi AI bots. But I think the necessity of training the initial model with a community that is has skin in the game. They're invested into the token early on, and I think that really is a territory that you can't walk into disingenuously. So it's something that one of the few things that I think this community level of interest and incentive alignment you can't buy, you can't really build. It just needs to kind of happen over time, and it just needs to be people kind of seeing the vision, becoming more and more clear, and believing in it, and wanting to be a part of it. So I think that's very unique, and I don't think that we'll see any AI music, soon, or the Udios, the big ones, dipping their toes into that, because they're so caught up in so much legal ease as it is. To add blockchain on top of it, I don't think they would ever mess with it, nor would any, I think, large studio, launch a token. I didn't think the president would, and that happened. So who knows? But I think this is territory that a lot of people are, tread lightly on.
Absolutely. That just like, so, first of all, everyone that's listening, go make sure to follow Suede Labs. You can find them here on Twitter. I just had you guys pulled up here. Here you go. AI Suede. Yes. AI Suede, SUEDE. Definitely keep up with them. Now, what can users or partners or people watching here, what would your, call to action be, right? What would, the main thing, someone watching here that wants to get involved, where would you direct them to kind of start the journey and understanding what you're building out here?
So reach out to us. We have over 4,000 ambassadors that are educating people across the globe. So if you have a question, we love to get involved. But if you were to go to suedeai.ai, type in a few sentences, maybe put a voice clip of yourself, create a song with that, and then you own that song 100%. Suno and Udio, based on the plans that you pay for, own a percentage of anything that you do create. But use that, and then you'll have the stems that you can bring into a DAW, and you can start manipulating. And this is where I think musicians really come into play, in the fact they can start manipulating MIDI data. And I think it's a way for people to start being interested in music theory in a way that's kind of 2025. And I think kids, that's why we have these school initiatives. They'll make a diss track about their friends, and then they maybe want to speed it up. So they pull the MIDI into the DAW, and they're, next thing they know, they're speeding to 120 BPM or 130, and then they see, well, I don't like this note, and they see if they raise it a third, now it's a happy song. It's no longer sad. So it's kind of a way to almost like Trojan horse music theory onto people. So I would say just jump on and let the website lead you, because I'm a little long-winded. But yeah, go to suedeai.ai, and there are so many different, opportunities and potentials for artists to kind of add to their toolbox and have a chance of really like getting by on a
what I've always advocated is that users need to try a product before they really judge it. So people need to go to the website.
Yes.
People need to see what they can do. People need to see the samples. You don't understand the depth and breadth of an AI tool really until you apply what you think you need from it to it. So Johnny, I think you're right. Thank you for pulling up here and bringing suedeai.ai to the show today. This is a great conversation. What's great is everybody up here had their own little background in this. I had no idea how diverse all you guys were, but we need to get together and jam sometime. I'd pull out a trap set and keep a rhythm for Drew. We could shred. We could groove. Let's do that, you guys. Sometime we'll get together and do it. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow everybody that's in this space. Everybody like Hassan and Adam and Matt, Matty Greenspan, Matty All-In. We got the Matts here today. All these guys have their accounts on X where they do spaces and write posts. And I would love it if you followed them, because they chose to donate their time today to be here to help you be entertained and educated. So we ask that you follow them. Thank you guys for pulling up so much. And thank you to Druth and everybody else at IBC for putting together these shows. It is a blessing to be out here. I feel very fortunate to have these conversations with you guys, and I look forward to running it back again with you, Druth. What do you say we close this one up? Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, you guys buckle up. Honestly, from a TA perspective, this is a absolutely ridiculously awesome time coming up for altcoins. What's being developed in the crypto ecosystem is incredible to me. And hearing this really, it was kind of perfect that I was on the show, because this is something that I have a lot of experience dealing with the existing music industry, and seeing products like Suede trying to shake it up and trying to give some power back. But also what you mentioned, Johnny, about testing out different notes, different timings. I mean, that's extremely important for someone to expand on their creativity. I think everyone out there has the ability to sing. It just depends on what note, what key, and what tempo. I think everyone's got it in them. It's just about finding that, kind of right movement. So really appreciate everyone that listened to the show here. We got like over 60,000. What is it at here? It's we had a lot of people
Nice.
pop in here and check it out. So if you're interested, go check out Suede AI. I'm going to go help the wonderful wife cook some delicious margarita pizza. Love and appreciate every single one of you out there, and look forward to the next one, Johnny.
If I could say one last thing, thanks so much for having me on. I'm supposed to mention this. I'm not the best chill or hype man because I love the technology, but we actually are in finalizing talks with partnership with one of the probably top 3 largest companies in the world. So I did want to mention that. I was supposed to mention it, forgot somehow.
You just dropped that at the end of the
there's
show.
That. Yeah,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But thanks, guys. It's really been an honor. Thank you so much.
Right. Be good, everyone. We'll see you on the next show.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Drops the bomb. Drops the bomb at the end. Unreal.
Hey, Johnny, are you seeing any interest from estates from some of these artists that have passed away, and are they inclined to make any deals?
Not so far. So it's still kind of something. It's